Okay, good morning everybody, and Chodesh Tov, Chodesh Elul Tov to everyone. Elul Rahamim, Elul mercy. We should be zochet to a month of mercy, a month of forgiveness, and a month of reconnecting to Hakadosh Baruch Hu Avinu Shebashamayim. Rabotai, we're right here studying the month of Elul. So forgive me, today we're not going to discuss our perashah. God willing, tomorrow we'll get to our perashah. Be'ezrat Hashem Beli Neder, Perashat Shofetim. Shofetim means judges. Veshoterim means officers. Tomorrow we will discuss, hopefully the rest of the week, a little bit about our perashah. But today we are still in Rosh Chodesh Elul. And so I would like to share with you a thought from Rabbi Bernstein's book over here that we've been learning together lately on the ideas of Teshuva and the ideas of the topics of repentance. And we know that there are many customs in the month of Elul. Okay, one custom is to say selichot every single day. That's the Sfaradi custom. We wake up early. The Ashkenazim still get to be in bed. There are perks to being Ashkenaz sometimes, and this is one of them. Okay, but we wake up every day, and that is what we do. But there is a Ashkenazi custom, and yesterday's class was about the selichot. Today's class is the Ashkenazi custom, and that is the idea of blowing a shofar during Rosh Hashanah. Okay, the Ashkenazim know what I'm talking about. Beginning on the first day of Elul, they blow a shofar every morning after Shaharit. And the question is very interesting. What exactly are we trying to accomplish by blowing the shofar every morning? What's the goal in blowing the shofar? Are we practicing? Are we practicing for Rosh Hashanah? We don't usually find that. We don't find that 30 days before Sukkot we should practice shaking a lulav. We don't really do that. We just get it and we shake it on the day of Rosh Hashanah. We just blow the shofar. I don't think it's about practicing for 30 days. Of course, we know the famous words of the Rambam, where the Rambam reminds us that the shofar is a call of Teshuva. Uru yeshenim, wake up from your sleep. But of course, there's something a little bit deeper that Rabbi Bernstein is going to share with us today, something that is nothing short of unbelievable. The origin of the custom of blowing the shofar on the first day of Elul is actually found in one of the earliest midrashim, the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. Take a look at what it says over there, and I'll quote to you from the English. On the first day of Elul, the Holy One, blessed is He, said to Moshe, "Ascend the mountain toward me." For at that time he ascended to receive the second luchot. And this goes back to something that we've learned in the past and we've discussed about the Jewish people. When Moshe went to get the Torah, the luchot, unfortunately, they committed the chet ha'egel. Moshe broke the first set of tablets. So he went up again, and God told him, after the second set of 40 days, I will forgive you. And finally, he took his own tablets for a final set, a third set of 40 days. He went up, and it was on those 40 days, beginning on today, Rosh Chodesh Elul, and concluding with Yom Kippur, those last 40 days, the final 40 days that Moshe was on Har Sinai, and he got forgiven. And so, when Hashem said to Moshe to come up on the mountain to receive the second set of tablets, at that time they sounded the shofar throughout the entire camp, announcing, Moshe has ascended the mountain. And therefore do not astray again after idolatry. Therefore the rabbis instituted that they blow the shofar on the first of Elul every year. This is the origin of the Ashkenazi custom to blow shofar on Rosh Chodesh Elul. Its sources all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. When he went up to get the tablets the second time around, they blew 40 kolot. They blew the shofar. They blew the shofar on Rosh Chodesh Elul, and therefore we blow it again from Rosh Chodesh Elul. Obviously, we have a couple of questions. Number one, the Midrash says that it was for a specific reason. It was to remind those people in the desert not to do the egel again. How does that exactly apply to us when we don't have that problem? Also, The Ashkenazim blow it throughout the entire month of Elul. Back then, they only blew it on the first day. And therefore, how exactly does the custom date back to this one with the Jewish people doing Chet HaEgel? And to really understand what's going on over here, we really have to go back and study a little bit the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf. And I know sometimes it sounds like we always do this. There's always two sins that we study as Jewish people. Every speech somehow goes back either to Chet HaEgel or to the sin of Adam Harishon. There's always somehow the rabbi discussing one of those two sins. But we're going back, and here we are discussing the Chet HaEgel. How did the sin happen? What exactly went wrong? Moshe went up and he told the people that he's going to be back in 40 days. And the mistake was that the people thought the day that he went up was part of the first 40 days. So they started counting the day that he went up as day one. Like imagine a parent tells a child, I'm going for 30 days on a trip. So the kid starts counting 1, 2, 3, and on the 30th day, the parent's not back yet. And the kid gets very nervous. Moshe said, I'm going for 40 days, and I'll be back. I'll see you soon. Wait for me. Hold on. So they start counting the first day. Day one. And that was their mistake. The day that he ascended was not intended to be part of the first 40 days, because it was already the morning, and it wasn't a full day. The count should have began the next day. So they were one day off. And so we wonder, why did the people count the wrong way? Why did they count the day that he went up as day one? And that's one question that's worth asking. Why did Moshe count not that day as day one, and the Jewish people did? And also, what is the shofar? How does the shofar remind them not to make the same mistake? The mistake was that they should have counted not the next day, not that day, but the next day. So we remind them not to do the same mistake. How? By blowing a shofar. What's the connection? What's the connection between blowing a shofar and not counting that day? Was it just like a reminder, okay, today is not day one? Is there something unique and significant about the shofar that connects to the mistake that they made? And that is really the question of Chet HaEgel. So they miscalculated. Big deal. They miscalculated. Are we really suffering forever and ever and ever for the rest of eternity as a Jewish nation? Are we really suffering because we miscalculated? Because we made a mistake in the counting? Is that really why we're all being punished every year? Okay, we made a mistake. And why should that be so bad? You're right, it led to the Egel. But it sounds like the mistake was something also to do with the counting. And Rabbi Bernstein says over here something beautiful. Why did the people count the first day? The day Moshe went up, he went up in the beginning of the day, sunrise. And they counted that day as day one. And to understand why they counted it as day one, what were they thinking? Actually, it's very important to know, in Judaism, when does the day begin? Anyone know when does the day begin? In the Jewish world, the day begins at night. And we all know this. I'll prove it to you. When does Shabbat begin? Saturday doesn't begin Saturday morning. Saturday begins Friday night, Friday afternoon. The day begins at sunset. The day should be calculated from sunset to sunset. The holiday begins on sunset every day. Right now, it's Monday. You know when it's going to be Tuesday according to the Jewish way of counting? Not tomorrow morning. Tuesday begins tonight. Tuesday is tonight. On Monday at sunset, it's already Tuesday. And that's how we count all of the holidays, all of the Shabbat, everything in the year. Okay? If it's sunset, it's already a new day. A lot of times when there's a wedding, the rabbi will rush the Chatan and Kala to make sure that they have the ceremony before sunset. Because, or else if it's after sunset, it's the next day, and then there's going to be questions of the ketubah being written on a previous day. Okay, not the biggest issue. But sunset's a very important time. Not so much sunrise. Doesn't really have much significance. More important is sunset. That's when everything begins, and that's when everything ends in the Jewish calendar. However, the idea that the day begins with the night has not always, at least some commentaries point out, that's not something that's universally, has always been true. It's actually a rather new phenomenon. According to many commentaries, that only began when the Torah was given. I'm going to tell you a big chidush right now. Before the Torah was given, even according to the Jewish people, the day began with the day. The day began in sunrise. And the truth is, there are some commentaries that point this to the beginning of time. Vayhi erev, vayhi boker. Usually we translate after evening, and after the day, that's one day. But the Rashbam and others explain that's not how to read the pasuk. And they read the pasuk in a way that actually proves that the day began with the day. Sunrise, sunset. The day begins in the morning and it ends in the night. The way we do it in the world, the way the world does it at large. That's the way we count the day. From sunrise to sunset. That's one day. Well, and by the way, I think I have a proof for this. We know that Avot instituted the prayers. So Avraham instituted which one? Shacharit. Yitzchak, Minha. Yaakov, Arbit. So the pasuk says that Avraham instituted Shacharit, Vayashkem Avraham baboker. Yitzchak instituted Mincha, Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basad. He went out to have a conversation. Yaakov, right? Vayishka b'makom ahu. Right? Vayivga b'makom. He, in the nighttime, he encountered God. So Avraham instituted Shacharit. Yitzchak Minha, Yaakov Arbit. Now if it's true that even from the beginning of time, the Jewish people counted the night as the beginning of the day, so then Avraham should have instituted which prayer? Avraham should have instituted the first prayer, which is Arbit. Yitzchak should have instituted Shaharit, and Yaakov should institute Minha. But it's not how we count it. Avraham was Shaharit. Why? Because even the Jewish people from the beginning of time, they counted Shaharit as the beginning of the day, Minha as the middle of the day, and Arbit as the end of the day. Nighttime was the end. After Matan Torah, everything changed. And the Jewish people, we could say that their mistake was that when Moshe went up, it was sunrise, they counted that day as day one. Why? Because they still counted the way they were used to counting till now. That was their mistake. Till now, the day begins in the morning. If Moshe is going up in the morning, we could count today as day one. The day didn't start yet. And that was their mistake. Now with the giving of the Torah, we're entering a new method of counting. That the counting begins at night. So yesterday already began. Today already began last night. And therefore we can't count today as day one. The day's almost over actually. The day's 12 hours done. It's like a fast of Tisha B'Av. When you wake up in the morning, the fast is halfway over. Right? Not because you woke up at 2 in the afternoon. I'm talking about the guy who wakes up early at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. The fast is halfway over. Why? Because the whole night, it's finished. The Jewish people, they should have thought and they should have understood that when we're entering over here, the Torah mode, it's already entering a new way of counting. That nighttime is the beginning of the day. And so we ask another question. Why did they configure the days in the old system? Why were they hesitant to transfer and to move to the new method of counting that begins in the nights? What is the idea, Rabotai, of beginning in the night, beginning in the day? Does it really matter? Does it matter when we begin? What is the symbolism? There's something a little bit deeper going on than just should we begin the counting at night, should we begin the day? And one of the commentators Rav Yosef Nehemiah Kornitzer of Krakow. He says something very, very deep. How do we view life itself? How do we view life itself? In terms of physical existence, life begins in the morning. Life begins in the morning, it ends at night. If you think about it, we're born physically, we're strong, and the older we get, the weaker we get. Day represents light, strength. As we get older, we get weaker. So in a physical way, we should begin with the morning, and we should end with dark, representing that as life goes on, you get older. Right? As we get older, we get weaker, we get less health. Our faculties begin to wane. But in a spiritual sense, actually the exact opposite happens. In a spiritual sense, we begin very weak. We begin selfish. We begin lazy. We begin not so intelligent. On a spiritual way, a person is immature. A person doesn't have life experience. A person who's young is the weakest in the spiritual sense. And as we get older and older and older, and as the day moves on, it actually gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And so, beginning with the night, that's a spiritual way of looking at the world. It begins dark and weak, but we get older and then the day comes. And so how should we begin? If the primacy, if the importance is placed on physical existence, then that's the way of counting, beginning with the day and ending with the night. We begin with sunrise, where we're the strongest physically, and we get weaker and weaker as we get older. But if we live a spiritual life, then it's the exact opposite. We understand that spiritually we're born weak. We're born like the nighttime. And only then do we get stronger and stronger. There's an amazing story. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky was once on a plane, and he was sitting in the front next to somebody who was believed to be an atheist. And throughout the flight, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky's children kept coming and asking their dad, "Do you need anything? Could we get you some water? Is there something that you would like to eat? Should we get you a pillow? Do you need anything? Should we order you a movie?" No, I'm kidding, they didn't say that. Is there anything that we could do to help you, Dad, on this flight? And this atheist sitting next to him is amazed. Look how much respect all these kids have for their father. So at one point in the flight, this man turns to Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky and he says, "Rabbi, I don't understand. My kids, I beg them one thing and I get complaining and they're embarrassing me and they're kvetching, they're so annoying. Your kids don't stop respecting you. How do you do it? How did you instill such respect into your children? Whereas me and my children, they don't ever call, they don't ever give me any honor, they never listen to me." Rav Yaakov, after speaking to the man a little bit, realized that he's an atheist. He says to him, "I'll tell you the difference between you and I. You see, I teach my children that we come from Har Sinai. We come from, Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. We come from the giving of the Torah. We believe that the closer one is to Har Sinai, the holier they are." That's actually one of the reasons why usually there's mourning. You should know, how long is the mourning period for? 30 days. Every person that passes away, whether it's a spouse or a sibling or a child, 30 days. But there's one relative that it's more than 30 days, it's a year. Which relative is that? For a parent. When a parent dies, a whole year there's no music. A whole year we don't go to parties. A whole year we are still a little bit in the mourning. Why is it longer than a year than the rest of the relatives? And Rabbi Isaac Bernstein, I believe quoting, I don't want to say who he quoted, I don't want to make a mistake, but he says something very profound. And he said that when a parent dies, it's one generation further now removed from Matan Torah, from Har Sinai. You see, every generation, we have that link to the previous generation, to Har Sinai all the way back. But when the parent dies, it's the end of an era. we are disconnected a little bit more. We're now even a little bit further from that giving of the Torah. Says Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky to this gentleman, we believe that we come from Har Sinai, we come from the Avot, we come from something very holy. The closer you are, the holier you are. So my children understand that I'm a bit closer to Hashem than them, and so they respect me. But you atheists believe in evolution. You teach that you come from monkeys. And so the older you are, the bigger of a monkey and ape you are. And so your children, when you ask them for something, they only laugh. Why should we listen to you, you monkey? If anything, you should listen to us. We are smarter than you. We are older than you. And so if we view the life, if we view the world in physical terms, we begin strong. We begin with our strength. We begin healthy. And as the day moves on, we get weaker, we get less healthy. But if we view the world in spiritual terms, unbelievable. We begin spiritually very weak. As we get older and older and older, the older generation, they are much smarter than us. That's why as in Judaism, in our religion, when a father or mother walk into the room, we stand up. When an elderly person walks into the bus, we give them our seat. Today you'll be very hard to find someone that will do that. Today you go on a train, go on a bus, an elderly person walks in, everybody is just looking down, nobody even thinks of giving the older person, why should I give you my seat? I am smarter, I am more advanced, I am a newer generation. That is the way the physical world that we live in look at life as a whole. And so when Hashem gave the Torah to the world, to the Jewish people, He was symbolizing a shift in priority. Till now the priority was physical existence. So we begin in the morning, strong, light. But now we're shifting to the Torah version. We're shifting to Torah mode. We're shifting to spiritual. In spiritual, when you're born, you're weak. And therefore we begin with the night. The Jewish people failed to realize this. They misunderstood what the Torah was all about. And so in a way, they were connected still to their Egyptian ways. They were still connected to the way of counting the day from morning. That's how the Egyptians lived. They were physical. And so, not only did they still count that way, but they ended up doing avodah zarah like the Egyptians. Unbelievable thought, very profound idea. The Shofar, the Rambam writes, is all about waking us up. If we open to Maimonides, the Laws of Teshuva, chapter 3, halacha number 4, says the Rambam that the goal of Shofar, Uru yeshenim mishenatchem, wake up from your sleep. V'nirdamim ekitzu meterdatchem, and wake up from your slumber, you sleepyheads. That is the goal of Shofar. Wake up! What kind of sleep, Rabotai, are we talking about? Usually when we say someone's sleeping, we mean that they're not moving physically. But that's not what the Rambam is talking about. When the Rambam says, wake up from your sleep, the Rambam doesn't mean because you're too physically silent. You're too physically inactive. The contrary. The Rambam says, you're blowing the shofar because we're too physically active. We're moving too much. Rabotai, the goal of shofar is to wake us up, not into a physical awakeness, but into a spiritual one. We are too spiritually asleep because we are too physically active throughout the year. We're moving too much. We're doing too much. We're multitasking too much. We're running around. We got our lives. We got our vacations. We got our gym. We got our Pilates. Whatever we're doing, we have our schedule. We're moving too much. We have our work, our business, our golf, our activities. We don't spend enough time on the spiritual. When the Rambam says wake up, he actually means slow down. The Rambam actually is saying, take a break. Put your foot on the brake. Slow down a little bit. You're moving too fast physically. You have no time to focus on your spirituality. We're beginning too much of our lives focusing on the day, beginning with the day. We're not spending enough time focusing on the night. That is what the shofar is here to do. The shofar is reminding us that we are living too much of a life of the Jewish people before the giving of the Torah. Our emphasis is all on the physical. We are beginning our days with morning and ending with night. The shofar is here to remind us of what the Jewish people, the mistake that they made. It is time that we start thinking in spiritual terms. That is our job, and that is the goal of the shofar, to wake us up. How much am I thinking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How much am I thinking about myself? Most people think, at least I'm with myself often. That's not even true. We're not even with ourselves. We don't even know ourselves. We are so far from being in thought with ourselves. We run away into this world. We're alone, but we don't even get in tune with who we are. We're maybe isolated from people, but we're still not in touch and in tune with ourselves. We're looking at other people, we're watching other people, we're thinking about all other people and their lives. But rarely do we think about our own lives. The goal of the shofar is to wake us up and to be in tune with ourselves, to be in touch with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to think a little bit about our spirituality. Maybe I'm focusing too much on business. Maybe I'm focusing too much on the sports. Well, the Olympics are over now. Maybe I'm thinking too much on all the different things in the world, the physical world. And it's good and it's important. And we live in a physical world and we need to pay attention to it. But make sure, says the shofar, you remember what is the most important thing in life. Ultimate importance is not the physical, it's the spiritual. When Moshe went up to Har Sinai, you know why they blew the shofar? That wasn't just saying, okay guys, today is don't count today as day one. Don't make the same mistake that you made, two sets ago. The shofar was there to wake them up. Maybe you're placing too much importance on your physical existence. Wake up. That's what the shofar was there to do. And once that happened, automatically the people then were able to easily shift into a new way of counting. Counting that begins not in the day, counting that begins in the night. And so automatically when Moshe went up in the morning, they said, and they knew the right answer. Answer is, today is not day one. Today, half the day is already finished. We begin at night because we live a spiritual life. A spiritual life is one that begins weak and we get stronger. It's a day that begins at night and it only gets more brighter with more hopes and more greatness waiting, better days to come ahead. That is a very powerful idea and a very important reminder in Siman. We now appreciate what the goal of the shofar is as the Ashkenazim blow it throughout the month of Elul. And whether or not we blow the shofar, I believe that the message is pertinent. The message is equally powerful and important. Ashkenazi, Sfaradi, irrelevant. The goal of the shofar for the next 30 days of Elul is to remind us we have to start slowing down physically. We have to start waking up spiritually to realize what's the ikar of our lives. What is the goal? Are we focusing on our spiritual selves? How much time? We give so much time in our day to our physical. We go to the beauty parlor. How do we look? And salons and hair and nails and makeup. It's all good and it's all important. But how much of our day do we spend on our physical appearance, on our physical finances, on our physical activity? Elul is a time that maybe we should, if we don't want to slow down from those, but at least to equally give importance to the spiritual if we're far from that. Everyone on their own level, of course. But to start spending time If I spend 5 hours a day on my physical self, I could afford 1 hour a day to focus on my spiritual self, whatever that looks like today. Let me start getting a little bit more in touch through Torah learning, a little bit more in touch through chesed, a little bit more in touch through prayer. This is the goal of the shofar. We should be zocheh to wake up spiritually in these amazing, amazing days. We'll stop over here. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.